I do not want to work through these questions point by point so much as to paint a broad canvas of my spiritual experience in light of Ashland's attributes, relationships, and faith statements. My personal journey of faith began even before I was aware of it, when my parents chose to return to the church of their childhood and to raise their children within the context of the faith community. I grew up surrounded by family that encouraged both a personal exploration of Christianity and a lifelong interest in learning. I struggled with my faith commitment during my early teenage years, but at 16 surrendered my life to Christ and almost immediately began preparing for vocational Christian ministry at Warner Southern College, which is now Warner University. The Church of God, my background, a Wesleyan holiness tradition, holds much in common with the Brethren tradition, including a strong emphasis on the authority of Scripture, an affirmation of women in ministry, and an emphasis on our relationship with Christ as the basis for our Christian unity. But in studying the Wesleyan roots of the Church of God, I learned of the pietist experiences which actually shaped John Wesley's ministry and spirituality. This led me into the area of small groups and spiritually mentoring relationships, which Wesley adopted from the Moravian pietists. The emphasis on shared accountability and small communities of learning became not only a ministry competence for me, but also the basis of my growing Christian experience. Regardless of my geographic location in ministry, I have remained involved in small accountability groups with persons who are both unafraid to ask me the hard questions, but also ones who are willing to affirm my spiritual progress, affirm God's work and calling on my life. Some of these relationships began as part of my early ministry training. Others were built within the context of my actual pastoral service to the church, and in the last 14 to 15 years, many of these relationships have emerged through my work within the Upper Room Walk to Emmaus. Out of this background of faith development grew a strong sense of mission to the world. This has included work at home through compassionate ministry such as work among the homeless, social justice projects with the Church of God Reconciliation Task Force, and several foreign fields including Haiti, China, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica. And out of my missions work at home and abroad, a new ministry emphasis emerged, mentoring others to lead in these types of mission endeavors. Although my official ministry credentials, my ordination, are in the Church of God, my actual ministry experience has been very diverse. In addition to serving the Church of God as a pastor and educator, I have also worked as community spiritual director for a Walk to Emmaus community, the pastor of discipleship for United Methodist congregation in New Jersey, where I currently serve, and as a training pastor for church planters and evangelists in Haiti. If I were given the opportunity to design a new program, my vision of field education would be perhaps somewhat different than many. First of all, I love the term field education. Many schools have either narrowed their extension efforts to technology offerings, such as online courses, or they have worked with learning paradigms that fail to take into account the actual context of effective ministry. Field education is a fitting term as it opens the door for any approach which might develop effective and spiritually mature servant leaders. Although technology does offer the chance to offer classes to a broader constituency of learners, technology alone cannot meet the need. I envision a multifaceted approach which may include technology tools as one part of an overall program, but which would also include such things as small accountability cohorts of learners, field mentors who might guide emerging leaders, much as Paul guided Timothy and Titus, and even field experiences in ministry that help expand learner perspectives. In more detail, academic classwork might be delivered through online courses, for instance, but these would be included not only as subject matter content, but also as strong communications tools and relational components with other learners and with teachers and mentors. This more structured coursework might be enhanced by the support of a field spiritual mentor, for example, possibly a pastor or other church leader, who would guide and shape the learner's experiences within the context of the local church. This support might be enhanced by small groups or cohorts of learners in a given area or region who meet at regular times to discuss, share, and affirm each other's learning experiences. I also see the mentors, whether pastors or peers, as being further enhanced by interactions with other learners and leaders from different disciplines and different fields of ministry. Particularly in this context, I bring a lot of strength in mentoring, actually. Two of my greatest strengths in this area are discernment of a person's abilities and gifts, their spiritual gifts, and the skill in developing these gifts and helping them grow these abilities and gifts into meaningful and effective ministry. One of the first examples of this in my ministry was Melissa. Melissa was our worship leader, and she also served as the office administrator for our congregation. For many months, I had sensed that Melissa was frustrated in her work, and after some persistent questioning, she revealed that she felt called into ministry, but everyone she shared this calling with just laughed at her. Over the next 2 years, I encouraged Melissa to simply begin this journey of answering her call by preparing for the call. With this in mind, she enrolled in an online undergraduate program, and at that point I became her official field mentor. We worked through the specific gifts and abilities that she brought to the ministry table. We helped work out some personal and emotional issues based on a shameful event in her childhood. And then I helped her refine her calling to minister through direct counseling, through spiritual direction, and through some experimental things that we did at church, just literally letting her work out a project in ministry within the context of her local congregation. Although my official mentoring relationship ended with Melissa when I returned to graduate school in 2005, she continued to grow and completed her degree in transforming church leadership in 2009. Another example of my mentoring ability is still happening in the life of Tony. Tony grew up a Roman Catholic, but felt alienated and distant from the high religion of Catholicism. When he met and married his wife a few years ago, he was a highly skilled builder, but practically illiterate due to severe dyslexia. He had taught himself to read, but was easily confused by complex pages of text, and especially if there were graphics included. After making one trip with me to Haiti, Tony expressed an interest in leading this kind of mission trip, but felt helpless because of his reading and writing limitations. Nevertheless, I encouraged him, guided him through the process of planning and recruiting his team for the next trip, and then released him with only minimal guidance to pursue this calling. Tony is now in the middle of raising funds for his 4th trip to Haiti, and his team has grown from only 8 people to over 15 people. What is more, on the first trip, an agnostic, actually atheistic friend of mine made the trip with Tony and I. She was never willing to listen to me speak about my faith, but Tony's simple and warm relationship with Christ has opened many opportunities for Tony to share with her. As we began preparing for the most recent trip, this young lady told me, "I used to think I was an outright atheist, but Tony has helped me see something, that I really want this God thing to be true. So now I'm thinking I'm really not an atheist. I'm just a wondering agnostic, searching to see if something this good could really be true for me." I see this as a real fruit of good mentoring, when the protege becomes the new mentor for another. Field education can take many forms, including mentoring, online education. Seminary goes back to church is a topic written by Russell West, where the seminary classes are actually delivered and practiced within the context of the local church. But so often persons called to ministry go away to a college or seminary, and anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 years sometimes to prepare for ministry. But often this very academic experience may isolate them from the actual context of where ministry is performed and lived out every day. I see the potential of field education alleviating the possibility of isolation from real ministry, as well as extending educational opportunities to those who cannot afford to leave home or who cannot afford to travel away from their current family situation in order to study at a seminary or college environment. At the same time, a traditional component of college or seminary experience has always been the ethos that develops around the institution itself. This can be the strong spiritual environment of the Christian college or seminary campus, or it can be the more intense relationships that are able to be formed between learners and their real-world professors and mentors. And field education, especially when it's seen as online education or remote distance learning, often isolates people from these ethos-enabling interactions. This is where field mentors, peer interactions, and even a cohort model of learning may enhance the more remote forms of distance and field education. What is more, if technology is used appropriately, and I emphasize appropriately, and in conjunction with other best practices, then larger communities of learning can be built. Communities that may include both residential learners, indigenous learners from other nations, and those gathered around their local church where their learning is actually taking place in the context of active ministry. This type of interaction across fields and across disciplines can serve as what the scriptures say, iron sharpening iron, where one learning person can sharpen the iron of another learning person, and together they can sharpen the iron of a third. In summary, it's easy to say what my faith affirmations are. I find no disagreement with Ashland's statement of faith. I hold strongly to the scriptures. I hold strongly to a Trinitarian view of God. I believe in a personal and warm experience with Jesus Christ, a growing relationship with Him that's empowered and actually dwelt in by the Holy Spirit. And I am fascinated and in love with the idea of small groups, of learning communities, of elements of accountability that nurture faith, not crush faith. And with this, I find myself in very close agreement with Ashland's vision, with their affiliations, and with their relationships. Although I was raised in the Church of God and my ordination is there, I'm very comfortable working in diverse theological and ethnic environments. And since I have so little that differs in my faith background than Ashland's brethren background, I see no conflict in that area. In fact, I think that I will be an asset to Ashland Seminary, as Ashland will probably be an asset to my vocation and career. I hope these answer your questions well. I'm a dedicated educator. I have the heart of a pastor and a missionary. I have worked in a diverse number of fields, as you can see from my curriculum vitae. But I am most concerned about how persons and individuals develop their full giftedness, how they answer their own unique God calling in the context of ministry, whether that's as a vocational minister or simply as a lay servant leader in the congregation. And I am passionate about bringing new people into this life-giving and life-transforming relationship. Thank you for your time and your consideration. This is Dr. Jesse S. McLean. I appreciate this chance to share my view and my visions with you.